Hello, good afternoon. I'll be talking about neural methods for intent understanding and reformulation. I have divided this talk into two 45-minute segments. Query understanding is core to search engine to infer precise intent expressed in user queries and retrieve relevant content to improve user satisfaction and e-commerce conversion rates. Bridging gap between query and product representations, e-commerce search engines help find types of products which customers are looking for. Fixing a large set of categories generated from product descriptions helps classify queries. Query rewrite alternatively can retrieve more products by reducing vocabulary gap between original query and product titles. So I have kind of listed a bunch of references. The talk is a very broad overview of the customer problem, technical challenge, and solution overview from each of these papers. And there are some recent papers as well as more seminal work. You can look at the actual papers with the URLs given in this deck. First, let's talk about intent understanding. As you can see, there's a query like Canon PowerShot SD850 camera. How does the search engine know that Canon refers to brand, SD850 refers to model, and so on and so forth? Basically, queries need to be annotated with individual field information, which is searched product attributes in shopping towards intent understanding. Um, Domain independent field ordering in product search queries displays statistically significant patterns which help sequential labeling, like brand and model come together, things like that. So domain dependent lexicons that enumerate possible values for each field um, can be constructed, but ambiguous. As an example, red is color or brand as in red hat, and out of lexicon words necessitate statistical approaches for sequential labeling instead, sequence labeling instead, which in turn model probabilistic dependencies between two consecutive fields and between fields and observations. While it is expensive to ask human annotators to label a large amount of queries, it's relatively easy to obtain labels for some word tokens from additional resources. Such derived labels refer to partial labeling information obtained in this fashion and are often noisy depending on data source. So in a sense, obtain derived labels for word tokens in queries. There's a flowchart which explains the detailed process. With access to user click data in the form of query and product title pairs, and to a product database that contains product titles and their corresponding field data, queries can be associated with their relevant field data. This enables automatically attaching labels to some word token in queries and to use them as derived labels in the proposed semi-supervised learning paradigm. So given query metadata pairs where metadata corresponds to field information represented in the target schema, following heuristics is applied to generate derived labels. If a word token does not appear in any field, or it appears in more than one field of the metadata, it will be labeled as null. So word token appears in exactly one field of the metadata. As an example, something like power shot in model, that word token will be labeled with the corresponding field name. Note that none of the fields in the second row of table exists in the product database. Consequently, word tokens of these fields are bound to have null labels. As an example, the word cheap in the figure. In this regard, a pure unsupervised approach is inadequate to label such fields correctly. So next is structural annotation approach, very similar. So product query is better served not using textual content like 50-inch LG LCD TV, orange Fendi handbag, white tiger book. Instead, If there is a query like diagonal equal to 50-inch, brand equal to LG, TV type equal to LCD TV, the target table is TV, range predicate on diagonal, and fast selection on other attributes. So that could retrieve more relevant results. Um, Structured data is abstracted as relational tables or XML files and readily available in publicly accessible repositories or proprietary databases. For structure annotations of web queries, there's a need to discover latent semantics. An annotation is nothing but a mapping of a query to a table of structured data and attributes of this table. Example is disambiguation between individual structured tables. That's such a typical challenge. Like table shoes, color white, shoe line is tiger, after A6 tiger line, table book, title white tiger. So there is ambiguity here. How do we resolve that? So probability scoring with generative model to assess likelihood, dynamic threshold to filter out misinterpretation. So basically producing this type of sensible tagging for user needs as to deal with unstructured free-form queries and lack of knowledge of the underlying schema. Scope for possibility of query targeting information outside structured data collection acts as a dynamic threshold mechanism to expose annotations. Model probabilities are learned in an unsupervised fashion on the combination of structured data and query logs. So next is more recent latent structured intents. Um, Here, interpreting ambiguous queries like high-end bike versus 21 speed carbon frame Janis or giant road bike. So the second one is more specific. Cheap sofa, affordable mattress are more such example like high-end bike. So users express their intent through queries in online shopping, and search result accuracy suffers if their meaning differs from user to user. Like example, camping equipment, birthday gift for daughter. So self-teaching from unstructured information, learn, reason, make purchase decisions. So that's the solution. What are the technical challenges? Context dependent, personalized, it can vary, the query intent can vary from season to season and location, and the demographics of the users like age, gender, income. So queries usually do not understand, basically understanding intent through attributes. What sofa texture is cheaper, eases the shopping process and helps present aligned information. Finding thus items with relevant characteristics rather than just matching with query text helps minimize number of rewrites. Queries usually do not form complete sentences and are but just a list of keywords in arbitrary order expressed in user-dependent ways. Modeling such noisy queries in robust, accurate fashion is a challenge. But shopping is a structured domain. There's a category hierarchy, brand, product line, features, and merchant. Um, the organized info is presented understanding intents. Thus, shopping is a predefined space with attributes. Search goal is to find items with right categories, thus alleviating users from need to select checkboxes to specify intent. So how do we map unstructured queries to structured attributes? You learn that knowledge from user behavior and product metadata despite growing catalog. Example, high resolution TV is Ultra HD 4K in terms of features, TV in terms of category, LG in terms of brand. So the data set is composed of millions of items and user queries along with the click responses, helps learn query attribute mapping. So NER maps entities from terms in text. Product queries need not even mention attributes. Any query term, high end, is not assumed to refer to a specific entity, that is 21 speed. Users may not even be aware of attributes like carbon frame at all. How do you figure out such implied attributes, even from unseen queries and new items or attributes? But the retraining itself is expensive. There are latency and hardware constraints, and we need to take into account user experience and then a production system. So well-defined system needs to handle a rapidly growing product space. Generalization to upcoming products itself is a challenge. So we need to augment query with terms, basically in terms of a solution overview. Attribute mapping from past interaction response to presented results. Correlations from product metadata. So multi-layer perceptron represents query embeddings as hidden layer fed to a fully connected layer. Predicts a set of binary attribute indicators. However, input queries encoded as word count vectors loses word order like milk chocolate and thus are not suitable for shopping query understanding. The product query metadata network instead jointly trained through a shared layer of attribute embeddings. Attribute label correlations are learned from structure instead of human annotations in an unsupervised setting. Such a more general approach scales better too. Co-occurrence pattern of product attributes is similar to that of latent attributes implied by queries. Word level models are not ideal for learning patterns in um, queries. As an example, model names as in CPUs of the same brand, i5-6200U, or cameras in the same product line, D3300. Character level model though suffers at rare words as there is not enough data to understand a specific arrangement. A hybrid ensemble, LSTM VRNN, however, with no additional parameters, is interpretable and improves search quality. So summary, flexible function class for unstructured queries, word level model for head queries, character level model for tail queries. So these are some results from the qualitative experiments. So top row is example queries, following rows predicted top attributes, left query is headphone model name, right query is a made up name. So basically right simulates future unseen query as demonstration of generalizability. Even though it's out of vocabulary, reasonable headphone related attributes are predicted based on the character pattern. So next simulates the future unseen model. Generalization based on character pattern handles out of vocabulary words and typos. Abstract complex queries. Girlfriend is bracelet. 10-year-old girl toys. So all this shows that the model is robust to typos and accommodate different unseen queries in differently reasonable ways. So like Yoga 3, brand Lenovo, laptops, touchscreen, laptop brand Lenovo. Yoga 5 made up model, brand Lenovo, product line IdeaPad. Yoga Mat, it's like the typo, right? It's more like Pilates made nuts, Yoga Direct brand or GGI brand. Unisex, even though there's a typo, it can accommodate that. yogaoutlet.com is the version. So basically, how do you translate semantic queries to attributes of the product? That's the challenge tackled here. So correctly, there's some more experimental results. Correctly predicts category shirts and tops. Shows a t-shirt at position 3 instead of a skipping row or an adapter. Similar co-occurrence patterns of attribute, product metadata and implied in query. iPhone 5 was shown at position 2, show charger. So this demonstrate improvement of baselines, deploying state-of-the-art IR techniques. So associating with the query a single or multiple predefined category labels, target that belongs to a taxonomy tree describing items in catalog, short continuously changing queries based on seasonal trends and introduction of new products over time. So classification boosts relevance in content search, predicting which category a query belongs to and passing the hypothesis to search engine as a ranking signal. Ambiguity is captured by assigning multi-label annotations to queries that are interpreted differently by users. When considering a web-scale product catalog, queries are unlikely to cover entire list of products in catalog. Typically, more popular products are retrieved and click rates are unevenly distributed across the catalog taxonomy categories. To mitigate data sparseness, we adopted a taxonomy tree pruning strategy by merging leaf nodes with a limited number of clicks with their parent nodes. So number below each node on the left, sum of click frequencies for all queries of the node. Recursively merge less popular nodes if summation of cumulative click frequencies of a node is less than a certain threshold. Ambiguity is captured by assigning multi-level annotations to queries that are interpreted differently by users. When considering a web-scale product catalog, queries are unlikely to cover entire list of products in the catalog. Typically, more popular products are retrieved and click rates are unevenly distributed across the catalog taxonomy categories. To mitigate data sparseness, we adopted a taxonomy tree pruning strategy by merging leaf nodes with a limited number of clicks with their parent node. Number of below recursively merge less popular nodes. The summation of cumulative click frequencies of a node is less than a certain threshold. While e-commerce catalogs collect a wide number of products classified by a fine-grained taxonomy tree, the actual product retrieval process is driven by user needs and does not necessarily reflect the initial taxonomy design. In this scenario, nodes such as sports, cycling, bike accessories, child seats, and sports cycling bike accessories, bike fenders are unlikely to be visited by users due to the small number of items categorized in the taxonomy leaf. Therefore, it's intuitive that merging these two nodes with their parent nodes, sports, cycling, bike accessories. In this way, products belonging to the removed leaf still get a chance to be categorized in the product parent node and as a more general security. Due to the popularity of certain product categories, the node frequency is unevenly distributed. So query classification, identify all best matching categories like moisture proof, could be dehumidifier, drying box. Tail suffers due to noise or lack of feedback. Clicked product categories from search log. Query could be a function of what customers would like the product to have and may not directly include a product name. By finding categories from inventory, search systems can return the right product for customers to choose. Different intents under various scenarios can be captured by preceding queries and click products in the same session. Consecutive behaviors in a search session reflect similar correlated search content. Questions without any click product, queries without any click product bring noise to the learning process. Now, longer sessions in e-commerce capture meaning given context with query text. Long-range dependency, structural info, preceding queries, and user behavior. Query intent is dynamic across sessions, and the influence of each preceding query and current intent is different. Words in a query contribute to its semantic meaning unequally. Representation for each query and its preceding and user behavior in the same session need to be learned jointly. So what are some of the challenges? Multiple categories like Samsung could be headset, cell phone, storage card. Synonymous spa cushion and bath pillow. Inclusion and overlap. Rice container, kitchen organizer. Dynamic intent, Apple, brand for electronic products or fruit. So categories are fine-grained specific words to describe the product. Since humans label new products in addition to automatic tagging models, learning from products rich in textual information of detailed description. Words of each query is encoded and the representation generated with word level attention. Session level attention helps extract most important information in all preceding queries. Hybrid representation of a session and query is adopted for model inference and future factor incorporated as regularization. Now, short, vague queries, behavior recognized for interest or preference, retrieved products in site stock, not practical to use external information. Session query annotations as input, predict category, regularizing next query. The query may not have enough information from the preceding session. For example, a query issued as early stage to this, of the session did not return satisfactory results, and then the customer rewrite the query with more clear intent. In such cases, in the training data, the insight from the future information in the session could also be very helpful. However, we should be careful when adopting such context since it won't be available in the real-time system or the testing time. So sessional info helps understand real search intent. Query could have been issued previously or firstly. Users could have switched a couple of times in the middle. Click category of present query as labeled for training. Subsequent behaviors are additional information to the model. So our goal of query understanding is to predict the category when issued, given the session information before, which includes preceding queries and click categories. Within a session, customers reformulate query in many terms to serve the same intent or even search name query. Um, So one goal of query understanding is to predict the category when issued given the session information before, which includes preceding queries and click product categories. Within a session, customers reformulate query in many forms to serve same intent or even search same query multiple times and click different products or categories. Query watch itself is a type of product, whereas customer interest could be more focused as quartz or mechanical. A vague query apple can be a fruit or brand, even then related products, tablet, laptop, desktop, or cell phone. So sessional info helps understand real search intent. Query could have been issued previously or firstly. Users could have switched a couple of topics in the middle. Click category or present query as label for train. Subsequent behaviors as additional info to the model. So sessions embedding representation is generated with the ability capturing the influence between um, any queries in the session by ignoring the distances, particularly used for dynamic session intent understanding. Customers' intent may shift over time and back and forth. For example, in the fourth line of table 1, the customer was initially searching for some fruits, then thought about children's clothes, and came back to the original intention of buying fruits again. Uh, Click category you know, preceding queries in the session that are further have quite significantly influential to the present query. Moreover, the shifting of customers' intention in the same session might bring noise to the present query understanding. Some totally random queries may come up and the customer may input a typo or search an unintended query by mistake. The next is taxonomy mapping with transfer learning. Identify categories from which relevant products are retrieved. Dataset curation, mapping, query to predefined taxonomy is expensive. The solution approach is exploiting product titles does not suffer from item category or cold start, unlike extreme user behavior. Products are basically mapped to a well-defined taxonomy. Transfer learning utilizes such knowledge present within the source domain, that is product classification, to improve task query categorization within a target domain. So multi-objective back-off optimization is another approach for query classification. Classification actually contextually constrains search scope to increase relevance. But low text quality and complex category hierarchy complicate the problem. Solution overview is that post-inference optimization to further improve reliability. Substitute potentially misclassified leaf categories with appropriate ancestors trading off accuracy with